Did you know that 97% of people never achieve financial freedom even if they work their whole lives? It's not about luck, not about education. It's about mindset and habits. I was one of those 97% myself. Until one day, I heard a phrase that changed everything. Who you have become is the reason you have what you have. If you want to find out how to join the three, stay until the end. Because in the practical part, I'll give you a tool that I personally received from my mentor. Also, subscribe so you don't miss the next videos, because it's gonna go even deeper. Why do some people work for 40 years and still barely make ends meet, while others build empires in just 5 years? Why do thousands live as if following a script someone else wrote for them, while a few write their own? And most importantly, why do even smart, hard work, honest people never become financially free? These are not rhetorical questions. These are the exact questions I began asking myself when I was 25. I was broke and dead, and had no prospects. And then one evening, my mentor, Mr. Shoaff, asked me, Jim, who have you become to receive what you have? Not how hard you work, not what you deserve, but who you've become. That's when I understood the core truth. 97% of people try to earn more without changing themselves. They want wealth without becoming the kind of person who attracts it. But life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't pay you for your dreams. It pays for your value. And that's why I say, if you want to be among the three, don't ask for better circumstances. Become a better version of yourself. Because wealth isn't what you get, it's who you become. I'm often asked, Jim, why do most people never achieve financial independence, even if they're honest, hardworking, and putting in long hours from morning till night? And I always answer, simply because they think the issue lies in external reasons. But the truth is different. Everything starts not in your wallet, but in your mind. I realized this for the first time when I was at a crossroads myself. I was working every day, had good intentions, but the bills kept piling up and the money kept disappearing. And then came that moment. This means the turning point when someone told me, what you have is a reflection of who you've become, no more, no less. It wasn't an insult, it was a formula. You see, 97% of people don't become wealthy, not because they're unlucky, or because their country is broken, or because everything is already taken. They don't become wealthy because they live in survival mode. They think like consumers, not creators. They work to pay bills, not to build capital. They seek security, not freedom. Look around. People save on coffee, but waste years at jobs they hate. They hunt for discounts on everything except their own thinking. They're ready to pay $1,000 for a new phone, but won't invest $50 in a book that could change their mindset. And here's the first major lesson. Poverty isn't the lack of money. It's first and foremost the habit of thinking short term. I was taught to think long term. I was taught to ask myself, does this bring me closer to financial freedom or just sustain my present? And honestly, things in my life back then were just sustaining the present. My job, my expenses, even my circle, all of it was a reaction to circumstances, not a choice for the future. But the real shift happens when you stop thinking like someone who deserves to be paid more and start thinking like someone who creates value. Because what is money? It's not just paper, it's a reflection of the value you bring to the world. My mentor once told me, that's a day to say, what you earn now is all that you're being paid, but it's not all that others are being paid. So it's not the ceiling, it's just your ceiling. He also told me something I never forgot, Jim, if you want to earn more, become more valuable. And that doesn't mean working more hours, it means becoming a different kind of person. Those in the three, they don't just know more, they act differently. They make different choices. They set higher goals and have the inner discipline to stick to them. Ask yourself, how does someone with $1 million income think? They think in terms of long-term gain, instant gratification. They spend their time on opportunities, not excuses. They don't wait for Monday that they start now. I used to tell myself if I had the capital, I'd start a business, but Mr. Shoaff said, on the contrary. Jim, first, start thinking and acting like an entrepreneur, and then the capital will come. That's a mindset shift. And it doesn't happen overnight, but anyone can begin, because even the poorest day can become the first day of wealth if you change your focus. And here's the next crucial point. 97% of people give up their control. They let their job, the government, their boss, their situation decide how much they'll earn. But the wealthy think differently. They don't just accept the salary. They create income streams. They own, they build. Someone once asked me, Jim, how do I start thinking like a millionaire if I have nothing right now? And I replied, start with your morning, with investments, with your morning. Because how you wake up, that's your discipline. And discipline is what forms habits, and habits shape destiny. Most people wake up and check the news. The 3% wake up and check their goals. Most people spend. The 3% multiply. Most people consume content. The 3% create it. See the difference? It's not about talent. It's not about special connections. It's about mindset. It's like a gardener and weeds. If you don't plant, eat, the weeds will grow on their own. If you don't shape your mindset, wrong thinking will shape you. And that's why I want you right now, as you hear these words, to ask yourself, are my thoughts, habits, and daily actions attracting financial freedom, or just sustaining survival? It's tough, but the truth always has sharp edges. In the next section, we'll go even deeper. I'll show you how exactly the 3% think, how they make decisions, what they believe, what they read, how they plan their lives. And I'll give you real examples from my own journey, including a story about how a simple moment on a farm in Idaho taught me about wealth. It'll be unexpected, but also very practical. You know, what struck me the most about the wealthy people I've had the honor to work with or learn from, it's not just that they work differently. They see life differently. They don't live paycheck to paycheck. They think in terms of decades, generations, legacy. And this philosophy isn't about luxury. It's about responsibility. I grew up on a farm in Idaho. My family wasn't wealthy. We worked hard, rising before the sun. But there was one thing I didn't understand back then. Working hard doesn't mean working, right? You can dig a ditch with a spoon your whole life. That doesn't mean you're getting closer to success. And one day, as a young man, I was watching my father standing in the field, assessing the land. He wasn't just digging or sowing. He was planning. He saw the season ahead. He saw the harvest where others saw only dust. And that's when I first understood that those who want to read more must think like a farmer long-term, strategically, and most importantly, consistently. That's the mindset the 3% live by. When I met Mr. Schaaf, he taught me a very simple yet profound idea. Don't start your day until you've finished it on paper. In other words, plan. Plan every day you're spending your actions. Most people live reactively. Something happens and they respond. But the 3% live proactively. They create the script for the future, and every day, they play the lead role. Now, let's look at how they make decisions. This is crucial. Those in the 97% decide based on comfort. Is it easy? Do I feel like it? Is it not scary? But the 3% choose from a different place. Will this bring me closer to my goal? If the answer is yes, they act, even if it's scary and comfortable or unfamiliar. That's why, when I was just starting my career, I'd one thing that terrified me. I started public speaking. I feared the stage. I worried about every word. But I knew that if I wanted to be influential, I had to become someone who could persuade. And you know what? My first speeches were terrible, but each one got better because I decided not to wait for confidence. I acted to earn confidence. That's how the 3% think. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create it. They don't wait to become smarter, they learn. They don't wait to stop being afraid. They move through fear. And here's another key point. Environment. You've heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's true. When I was surrounded by people who only complained, who said, that's impossible, that's not for us, I lived the same way. But when I began to listen to others reading books, talking to those who think big, my standards began to change. Poverty is contagious, but so is wealth. And it doesn't start in a bank account, and it starts with a conversation, a thought, an inspiration. That's why I always say, change the information you surround yourself with. Listen to those who are already where you want to go, not those giving advice without results. Also, the 3% constantly invest, but not just in stocks or real estate. They invest in themselves, in skills, in courses, in mentors. Someone once asked me, if you had only $100 left, what would you do? And I said I'd buy the best finance book I could find and read it cover to cover, because knowledge changes destiny. Now imagine someone spends $30 on lunch without thinking, but a $30 book they consider expensive. That's why 97% stay where they are. And finally, discipline. You've heard the phrase discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. That's not just a nice quote. It's absolute truth. Because even the best strategy is worthless if you can't make yourself get up in the morning when you don't feel like it, if you can't choose long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, if you can't say no to what distracts from your purpose. Wealthy people aren't special. They just do the right things, and even when they don't feel like it. So ask yourself again, am I thinking like the 3%? Am I acting from purpose, or P2, or from fear? Am I planning my day, or letting the day plan me? Because until you take full responsibility for your thoughts, your choices, your habits, you won't escape the 97%. But that's not all. In the next section, I'll show you the third key to the 3% mindset: emotional management of money. Because money isn't just numbers. It's emotions. It's psychology. It's how you relate to wealth, risk, and your own value. I'll share how one shift in my attitude toward fear helped me land my first big contract. And I'll give you another quote that might flip your world. If you've ever tried to save money, invest in something new, or start a business, you've likely felt fear. And that's normal. Because the truth is, money isn't just about math. It's about emotions. It's tied to our fears, beliefs, even our sense of self-worth. And here lies the third major barrier that separates the 97% from the 3%: emotional management of money. I remember at the beginning of my journey, I got my first offer to run a paid seminar. The amount they offered me seemed astronomical at the time. And you know what happened? I got scared. Scared that I wouldn't meet expectations, that I wasn't ready yet, that someone would say, "Who is he to charge that much?" Fear paralyzed me. And that's when I recalled my mentor's words. "Jim, your finances will never grow beyond your belief in your own value." Here's the thing. We can study investment principles, read about the market, repeat affirmations. But if deep down we don't believe we deserve wealth, we'll either not earn it, or we'll lose what we do earn. That's financial psychology. I've seen it again and again. People win the lottery, and 2 years later, they're broke again. Why? Because external money doesn't change internal self-worth. If you haven't grown inside, wealth will break you, not bless you. But someone who thinks like the 3, even starting with 0, will find a way to create capital because their compass is different. Here's another example. I once delayed a critical business decision because I was afraid of losing money. It was supposed to be my first major event, and I needed to invest a few $1,000s. That was a big amount for me then. And you know what I did? I didn't calculate, I hesitated. I didn't analyze. I worried. Fear froze me. And again, I remembered Mr. Schaaf's words, "Don't let the fear of loss rob you of the chance to gain." I did that event, and it brought me 10 times more than I spent. But most importantly, it restored my belief in myself. Here's the principle. Wealthy people treat money as a tool, the poor as a taboo. The wealthy study money, the poor are ashamed to talk about it. The wealthy are willing to take smart risks, the poor wait for 100% guarantee. But there's an even deeper level, the attitude toward losses. Those who stay in the 97% fear mistakes. They think, what if I lose the 3%? Ask, what will I learn if I try? The mindset difference is massive, because in reality, every loss is a tuition fee for experience. And if you're willing to pay, you'll grow. I remember a story from my life. A man came up to me after a seminar and said, I lost $10,000 on a bad investment, total failure. And I asked him, what did you learn? He said, never invest in what you don't understand. And I replied, then it wasn't a loss. It was a $10,000 lesson. And that's cheaper than an MBA. So here's another key belief that shapes the 3% mindset. Failure is not a catastrophe, it's part of the process. Edward Barnes didn't become Edison's partner in one day. He arrived in New Jersey, broke. But he had a vision, and when he was offered a small job, he didn't take offense. He worked like a partner before he became one. His entire attitude was, I'm already the person I want to be. The world just doesn't know it yet. That's the essence. Wealth doesn't come to the one waiting for it. It comes to the one who already lives like someone who deserves it, not material but in mindset, discipline, vision. And one more thing, people in the 3% never treat money as the ultimate goal. It's a tool. They understand true value isn't in the money. It's in who you became it. Because that's what you'll take with you to the next project, the next crisis, the next victory. Now, let's take a step forward in the next part. I'll ask you 5 self-assessment questions that will help you honestly determine whether you're thinking like the 97% or have already started the journey to the 3%. But don't worry, this won't be a test. It'll be a moment of meeting yourself. Remember, we don't blame, we analyze, we build strength, and we prepare for the practical breakthrough in the final part of this video. Ready for the interactive section? So the moment of meeting yourself has come. Because this is where real growth begins. Not in information, but in reflection, in honesty, in the inner mirror. Are you ready? I'm going to ask you 5 questions. For each one, rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 means this isn't me at all, and 10 means this is my reality every day. Don't overthink. Answer in the moment as it is. Sometimes the first answer is the truest. Question 1. How clearly do you know your financial goal for the next 12 months? Can you say right now, I want to earn X dollars, create X asset, reduce debt by X, remembering? Or vague goals bring vague results. 1 is, I have no specific goal. 10 is, I have a written goal with numbers, deadlines, and a plan. Question 2. How consistently do you act on that goal daily? Is your day a step towards your goal or just a series of reactions to circumstances? 1 is, my day is dictated by others, situations, or random events. 10 is, every day I consciously take actions that bring me closer to my goal. Question 3. Does your current mindset reflect the thinking of someone who already has what you want? Imagine, how would someone with your financial goal think? Do you think like them or like a consumer who lacks? 1 is, I often think like someone who doesn't have enough. 10 is, I make decisions based on abundance and responsibility. Question 4. How much do you invest in yourself each month? Not just money, time, energy, books, courses, environment. If you don't pour in, you won't grow. 1 is, I do almost nothing for my personal development. 10 is, I invest in new knowledge, skills, and mentorship every month. Question 5. How disciplined are you when there are no results yet? Because true wealth is built in silence, in the routine. In those mornings when you feel like quitting, but do what you promised yourself anyway. 1 is, I give up easily when I don't see results. 10 is, I stay the course even when results are far away. Now, pause inside yourself. Look at your 5 answers. This isn't a sentence. This is a starting point. It's honest, it's precise, and big changes begin from places like this. If most of your answers are between 1 and 4, it means you're living with the habits of the 97%. But that's not a problem. That's a diagnosis. And that means it's treatable. Start small, 15 minutes of self-development daily. 1 plan, 1 new choice. If most of your answers are in the 5-7 range, you're already on the path. Your mindset is shifting. Now, it's time to turn knowledge into action. Regular, relentless. If your ratings are mostly 8 to 10, congratulations. You're not just thinking like the 3%. You're living like the 3%. And your future is only a matter of time and consistency. Here's what I suggest. After this video, return to these questions. Not now. Don't stop. Keep watching. But tonight, take a piece of paper, a pen, and reflect again, honestly. Write down what you need to change. So every score becomes a 9 or 10. That will be your first step. Not magical, practical. Now drop in the comments one of your scores that surprised you, one you didn't expect. Maybe it will be the moment that wakes something in you. And if this video resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with a friend who's also ready to break out of the 97%. Someone once told me, Jim, the greatest risk in life is to live it without ever unlocking your potential. And it's true, because we weren't born just to survive. We were made to create, to inspire, to grow. But something strange happens to most people. They start with a dream and end in compromise. Why? Because it's comfortable. Because habits defeat desire. Because fear paralyzes action. And that's exactly why 97% of people remain at the same level they started. They're not stupid, not lazy. They simply never made the internal decision to become someone worthy of more. And here's what I want you to take away from this video. Wealth isn't money. It's not cars. It's not status. It's the result of who you became on the path to your goal. You've already heard today what it takes to be among the 3%. A creator's mindset, not a consumer's. A plan, not just a reaction. Responsibility, not excuses. Investment in yourself, not entertainment. Discipline when no one is watching. And most importantly, a self-image that isn't limited by the past. I was once in the 97, and if someone had told me back then that I would speak to thousands of people, write books, and influence millions of lives, I wouldn't have believed it. Not because it was impossible, but because I wasn't yet the person who could imagine it. My mentor used to say, Jim, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and you'll have not just income, but a destiny. I took that seriously, and now I stand before you with a simple but powerful message. Don't postpone your transformation. Start it today. Next month. Not after vacation, today. Because while most are thinking, comparing, doubting, the 3% are acting. They get up earlier, they read while others scroll, they take risks while others wait for permission. And that's why they have different results. So I'll leave you with the phrase that became my awakening. Don't wish life were easier, wish you were better. Jim Rohn, become the kind of person who doesn't just listen to videos like this, but turns them into a plan of action. And then you'll gain not only new income, but a new identity. And that is the greatest reward. Because in the end, you weren't born for the 97%. You were born to be the exception, to be the example, to be the living proof of a potential others lost along the way. Your time is now. Your path is right in front of you. Your choice is the only one that truly matters.